I didn't mean it as an insult. That's what I need everyone to understand first. It wasn't meant to be cruel or hurtful or dismissive. It was just a joke, a lighthearted observation, a playful comment about his personality that I thought we both understood. Something I'd said before that he'd always laughed at. Something that had become part of our dynamic. Something that I genuinely thought he found funny too, because he'd never told me otherwise. He is awkward. That's just factual. That's just who he is. It's not a judgment, it's an observation. He's introverted. He's shy in social situations. He gets nervous around new people. He prefers online interactions to in-person ones. He's more comfortable behind a screen than in a crowded room. He'd rather stay home and game than go to a party. That's just his personality. That's just how he's wired. And I thought I was okay with that. I thought I accepted him as he was. I made the joke at a gathering with my friends. We were all planning a group outing, dinner and then a club downtown. Everyone was excited, making plans, coordinating who would drive, discussing what to wear, the usual pre-going out energy. And someone asked if I was bringing him, if my boyfriend would be joining us. And I laughed, just laughed, and said without really thinking about it, "No, he's too awkward to go out with. He'd be miserable at a club. He barely functions at normal restaurants. I can't take him to places like that." Everyone laughed. It was funny. It was a known thing about him. They all knew he was introverted and shy. They'd all seen him get uncomfortable in social situations. They all understood what I meant. It wasn't meant to be mean. It was just acknowledgement of reality, just saying what everyone already knew. Just being honest about the fact that he wasn't going to enjoy a loud, crowded club environment. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. Except he heard me. He was in the next room, on his laptop, probably gaming or watching streams like he usually did when I had friends over. I didn't think he was listening, didn't think he was paying attention to our conversation, didn't think he'd overhear me making a joke that I'd made 100 times before. But he heard every word, heard me laugh about him being too awkward, heard me tell my friends I can't take him places, heard me reduce him to his social anxiety in front of people. He didn't say anything in the moment, didn't come out, didn't confront me, didn't interrupt my gathering, just stayed in the other room, quiet, processing what he'd heard, making decisions I wouldn't understand until later. When my friends left, he came out, looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Not angry, not hurt that I could see, just thoughtful, contemplative, like he was working through something. "I'm too awkward to go out with," he said. Calm voice, even tone, not accusatory, just repeating what I'd said, confirming what he'd heard. "Oh, you heard that. I was just joking around. You know how you are in social situations. You hate clubs. You would have been miserable if you'd come. I was just being realistic about what you enjoy. It wasn't meant to be mean. You said you can't take me places. You said I barely function at normal restaurants. You said that to your friends. You made my social anxiety into a joke. It was just a joke, a light-hearted comment. Everyone knows you're introverted. It's not a secret. I wasn't revealing anything new. And honestly, would you have wanted to go to a club? Would you have enjoyed that?" "That's not the point." "Then what is the point? I'm confused about why you're upset. I've said things like this before, and you've never been bothered. Why is this different?" He looked at me for a long moment, that same thoughtful expression, that same contemplative look, then said something that made my stomach drop. "I'm going out tomorrow night. I have plans. Just wanted to let you know I won't be available." "Plans? What plans? You never have plans. You always stay home." "I'm getting dinner with a friend, someone I've been talking to online. We're finally meeting in person." The way he said it, calm, matter-of-fact, final, made it clear This wasn't a question or a request for permission. This was him telling me what was happening. This was him making a decision and informing me of it. You're going out. You? The person who's too awkward to go out with. Apparently, I'm only too awkward to go out with you. The next evening, he got ready. Actually got ready. Put on nice clothes. Not his usual hoodie and jeans, but an actual button-down shirt and dark pants. Styled his hair. Put on cologne. Made an effort I rarely saw him make anymore. Made an effort he used to make for me in the beginning, but had stopped making months ago. Made an effort that made it very clear this wasn't just dinner with a friend. This was something more. I watched him get ready with increasing anxiety, increasing jealousy, increasing anger that I was trying to suppress but couldn't quite manage. Who is this friend exactly? You've never mentioned them before. Someone I met through gaming. We've been talking for a few months. They're in town for work. Asked if I wanted to meet up. I said yes. They? Is this person a guy or a girl? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. You're going to dinner with someone I've never heard of. You're getting dressed up like this is a date. Of course it matters who they are. Her name is Maya. She's a friend. We play games together. We talk on Discord. She's visiting from Seattle. We're getting dinner. That's all the information you need. Her. It was a her. He was going to dinner with another woman. A woman he'd been talking to for months. A woman he'd never mentioned to me. A woman he was getting dressed up for. A woman he was making an effort for that he no longer made for me. So you're going on a date with someone else while you have a girlfriend. It's dinner with a friend. If it were a date, I'd tell you. I'm not hiding anything. I'm being completely transparent. I'm going to dinner with someone I've been talking to online. Someone who asked if I wanted to meet up. Someone who apparently doesn't think I'm too awkward to go out with. The last sentence landed like a slap. A deliberate callback to what I'd said. A pointed reminder of my joke. A clear statement that this was about proving something. About showing me something. About demonstrating that maybe I was wrong about him. You're being petty. You're doing this to get back at me for a joke. You're trying to make me jealous. I'm going to dinner with a friend. If that makes you jealous, that's something you should examine. Ask yourself why you're uncomfortable with me going out when you regularly go out without me. Ask yourself why it's fine for you to have social activities that don't include me, but it's not fine for me to do the same. Ask yourself why you can joke about me being too awkward to take places, but get upset when I go places without you. He was right. I did go out without him all the time. Did make plans with friends that didn't include him. Did attend social events where I didn't invite him because I knew he wouldn't enjoy them, or so I told myself. Did have a whole social life separate from him because he was too introverted to participate. So why was I upset that he was doing the same thing? Why was I jealous that he was going to dinner with someone else? Why did it bother me so much that he was making an effort for someone who wasn't me? He finished getting ready, grabbed his keys, headed for the door. Paused before leaving. I'll be back late. Don't wait up. And he left. Just left. Walked out the door to go have dinner with another woman while I stood there processing what had just happened. Processing that my introverted, awkward boyfriend was going on what looked suspiciously like a date with someone he'd been talking to for months. Processing that he was proving my joke wrong. Processing that apparently he wasn't too awkward to go out with. He was just too awkward to go out with me. Melanen or Sanesen Ilanki. I spent the evening obsessing, completely obsessing. Couldn't think about anything else. Couldn't focus on anything. Couldn't do anything productive or distracting. Just sat there on the couch with my phone in my hand, checking it constantly. Waiting for updates that didn't come. Waiting for texts that he wasn't sending. Waiting for information that he clearly had no intention of providing. Imagining what they were doing. Where they went. What they were talking about. whether he was being his usual quiet, reserved self, or whether he was actually opening up to her in ways he no longer opened up to me. Whether he was comfortable, or whether my constant jokes about his awkwardness had become self-fulfilling prophecy, and he really was struggling in social situations now. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized he probably wasn't struggling. The more I understood that he'd deliberately chosen that nice Italian place, the one I'd specifically told him would be too much for him, to prove a point, to show me that my assessments of his capabilities were wrong, to demonstrate that when he was with someone who didn't expect him to be awkward, he wasn't, to prove that maybe the problem wasn't his social anxiety, but my constant reinforcement of it. I texted him once, trying to sound casual instead of jealous. "Where did you go?" No response. Nothing, just silence. Just my message sitting there delivered, but unread. Or read, but ignored. Either way, he wasn't prioritizing responding to me. Wasn't making me a priority while he was out with her. Wasn't letting me interrupt his dinner with my need for information and reassurance. An hour passed. An hour of me sitting there staring at my phone. An hour of me refreshing our text thread, hoping to see typing indicators. An hour of me driving myself crazy with scenarios of what they might be doing. And then finally, a response. "Italian place downtown. The one you said was too nice for my comfort level." The passive aggression was unlike him. The pointed reminder of another comment I'd made was completely unlike his usual avoidance of conflict. The deliberate callback to my constant assessments of what he could and couldn't handle showed he'd been paying attention to all my jokes, had been cataloguing all my comments, had been quietly absorbing all my criticisms disguised as observations. And now he was throwing them back at me. Now he was showing me that maybe I'd been wrong about everything, that the nice Italian restaurant wasn't too much for him. It was just too much for him with me because I'd made him feel like it would be. I wanted to text back something defensive, something that explained why I'd said that, something that justified my assessment. But what could I say? That I'd decided he couldn't handle a nice restaurant based on... what? Based on his personality? Based on his introversion? Based on my assumptions about what his social anxiety meant he was capable of? I'd made those assessments without ever actually taking him to a nice restaurant and finding out. I'd decided for him what he could handle, and now he was proving me wrong. I texted again, unable to stop myself even though I knew I should. "When will you be home?" He didn't respond. Not for another 2 hours. Just left me sitting there wondering if that meant dinner was going really well. If that meant they'd moved on to somewhere else. If that meant he was so engaged in conversation with her that he wasn't checking his phone. If that meant he didn't care that I was sitting at home waiting and worrying and slowly driving myself insane with jealousy and insecurity. I called around 9:30. Couldn't take the not knowing anymore. Couldn't sit with the anxiety. Couldn't handle being ignored. The phone rang 3 times and then went to voicemail. 3 rings meant it wasn't going straight to voicemail. It was ringing, he was seeing it was me calling, and he was actively choosing to decline the call. He was deliberately not answering. He was purposely ignoring me. He was making a statement that he was busy, that he was focused on Maya, that he wasn't available to me right now because he was available to her. I tried to distract myself after that. Tried to watch TV but couldn't follow the plot. Tried to scroll social media but just kept seeing happy couples and feeling worse. Tried to read but couldn't focus on the words. Tried to do anything other than obsess about my boyfriend being on what was clearly a date with another woman. A woman he'd been talking to for months without telling me. A woman he'd connected with online and was now meeting in person. A woman who apparently brought out sides of him I no longer saw. A woman who was getting the version of him that used to be mine. The version that made an effort, that got dressed up, that wanted to go out and do things. And the worst part was knowing it was my fault. Knowing that I'd pushed him away with my constant comments, that I'd made him feel small with my jokes, That I'd convinced him he was too awkward to take places, and so he'd stopped wanting to go places with me. That I'd created the distance between us by making fun of the thing he struggled with instead of supporting him through it. That I'd lost the boyfriend who used to want to go out with me by constantly telling everyone he was too uncomfortable to go out. Around 11, I finally heard the door. The sound of his key in the lock made my heart race, made me sit up straighter on the couch, made me prepare for whatever conversation was about to happen, made me ready myself to see whether he looked guilty or happy or conflicted or what. He came in looking happy, actually genuinely happy, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months, maybe longer. That easy, relaxed smile he used to have all the time when we first started dating, but that had gradually disappeared over the past year. That unguarded expression that meant he felt good, felt comfortable, felt like himself, relaxed in his body language in a way he never was after spending time with me anymore. Comfortable in his skin, like the evening had been exactly what he needed. Like going out with Maya had been energizing instead of draining. Like spending time with someone who didn't make jokes about his anxiety had been freeing. And I realized in that moment, he wasn't awkward with her. Whatever I'd convinced myself was his inherent personality trait, his social awkwardness, his discomfort in public, his anxiety in social situations, apparently didn't exist with her. Or at least, it didn't stop him from having a good time, didn't prevent him from going to a nice restaurant, didn't keep him from staying out for 4 hours, enjoying someone else's company, which meant maybe it had never been about him. Maybe it had always been about us, about how I made him feel, about what I expected from him, about the narrative I'd created that he'd started living down to. "How was dinner?" I asked, trying desperately to sound casual instead of accusatory, trying to seem like I was just asking a normal question about his evening, trying to pretend I hadn't been obsessing for 4 hours, trying to act like I was totally fine with what had just happened, trying to hide the jealousy and insecurity and fear that was eating me alive. Really good. We went to that Italian place, Giovanni's, the one with the fancy wine list, had an amazing meal, really great conversation, then walked around downtown for a while, just talking and looking at the lights, got coffee at that late-night cafe on 5th Street, talked about games and streaming and work and life. She's really interesting. We have a lot in common, really compatible interests and sense of humor. It was nice, really, really nice. Every detail felt like a knife. The fancy wine list at a restaurant I'd decided was too sophisticated for him. The walking around downtown, something I'd stopped suggesting because I'd assumed he'd be uncomfortable. The late-night coffee, extending the evening because he was enjoying it. The description of her as interesting, as compatible, as someone he connected with. The repeated emphasis on how nice it was, as if he needed to make sure I understood just how good a time he'd had without me. So it was a date. It was dinner with a friend. You were gone for 4 hours. You got coffee after. You walked around downtown. That's a date. That's what dates are. If I wanted to go on a date with someone else, I'd break up with you first. I'm not a cheater, but I am allowed to have friends. I am allowed to go out. I am allowed to spend time with people who don't think I'm too awkward to be seen in public with. There it was again, the callback to my joke, the reminder of what I'd said, the evidence that he was still hurt by it even if he was acting calm, the proof that this whole evening had been about proving a point, about showing me that he could go out, that he could be social, that he could spend time with someone who appreciated him instead of making fun of his anxiety. I've apologized for that. It was a joke. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. You've never apologized. You've explained why it was okay for you to say it. You've justified it as being realistic. You've told me I'm being too sensitive, but you've never actually said, "I'm sorry I made fun of your social anxiety in front of my friends." You've never acknowledged that it hurt. He was right. I hadn't apologized. I'd explained. I'd justified. I'd minimized, but I'd never actually said sorry, never actually acknowledged that my joke had been hurtful, never actually taken responsibility for making light of something he struggled with. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have joked about your anxiety. I shouldn't have told my friends you're too awkward to go out with. That was wrong." "Thank you. I appreciate that, but it doesn't change the fact that it's how you see me. You think I'm too awkward for nice restaurants, too uncomfortable for social events, too anxious to take places. You've decided I can't function in public. And you know what? Maybe with you I can't. Maybe around you and your friends, I am that awkward. But tonight I wasn't. Tonight I had a great time. Tonight I felt comfortable and relaxed and myself. So maybe the problem isn't that I'm too awkward to go out. Maybe the problem is that I'm too awkward to go out with you." Hanesapatin in Naibao or and Trelaine Sayers, his words hit hard. Really hard. Because they suggested something I didn't want to face. That maybe I was the problem. That maybe my constant comments about his social anxiety had made him more anxious around me. That maybe my jokes about him being awkward had made him actually feel awkward. That maybe he wasn't inherently uncomfortable in social situations. He was uncomfortable in social situations with me because I'd spent months reinforcing that he should be. "So what are you saying? You're breaking up with me. You're leaving me for some online friend you just met in person." "I'm not leaving you for anyone. I'm saying that tonight made me realize something, made me see that maybe the version of me you see, the awkward, anxious, uncomfortable version, isn't who I actually am. It's who I've become around you because you expect me to be that way. Because you've decided that's who I am. Because you make jokes about it constantly. And I'm tired of it. I don't expect you to be awkward. Yes, you do. You tell people I'm too awkward to go places. You make plans without me because you've decided I won't enjoy them. You don't invite me to social events because you've determined I'll be uncomfortable. You've created this narrative where I'm the introverted boyfriend who can't handle public outings. And after a while, I started believing it. Started thinking that's just who I am. Started declining invitations because I figured I'd be awkward anyway. But tonight I went out. And I wasn't awkward. I had a great time. I was comfortable and relaxed and myself, which means maybe it's not me. Maybe it's us. Every word was calm. Every observation was delivered without anger or accusation. Just facts. Just him laying out what he'd realized. Just him explaining what tonight had shown him. And I had no argument because he was right. I had created that narrative. I had decided he was too awkward. I had made assumptions about what he could and couldn't handle. And in doing so, I'd made those assumptions become reality. "I don't want to break up," I said quietly, scared now, realizing that this wasn't just about one dinner. This was about something bigger, something more fundamental, something that had been building for a while and had just crystallized tonight. "I don't either. But something needs to change. I can't keep being the boyfriend who's too awkward to take places. I can't keep being reduced to my social anxiety. I can't keep being left out of your life because you've decided I can't handle being part of it. Tonight showed me that I can have a social life, that I can enjoy going out, that I can be comfortable in public. So either you start seeing me that way too, or I'll keep finding people who do. People like Maya, friends like Maya, people who don't make jokes about my anxiety, people who don't decide for me what I can handle, people who actually ask if I want to be included instead of assuming I don't. Yes, people like Maya. Are you going to see her again?" He paused, looked at me directly, and said with complete honesty, "Yes. She's in town for another week. We're planning to meet up again. Probably going to that art gallery you said I'd hate. And maybe that arcade bar you said I'd be too uncomfortable at. And maybe anywhere else I want to go because I'm tired of letting you decide what I'm capable of handling." The message was clear. He was going to keep seeing Maya. Keep going out. Keep proving that he could have a social life. Keep demonstrating that he wasn't the awkward, anxious person I'd made him out to be. And I could either adjust my view of him, or I could keep being proven wrong. En tibo kakchabao, en elet bar, or shall nesa kutotele, en kog shat. The next week was tense. He went out 3 more times with Maya, once to the art gallery he'd mentioned, once to a concert I would have never thought he'd enjoy, once to brunch at a crowded cafe. Each time he came back looking happy, energized. Like himself, but more so. Like he was discovering a version of himself that had been dormant. Like going out with someone who didn't expect him to be awkward was freeing in a way going out with me had never been. Each time I felt more jealous, more insecure, more worried that I was losing him to someone who saw him differently than I did, someone who brought out sides of him I didn't even know existed, someone who made him want to go out instead of stay home, someone who apparently appreciated him more than I had. On the 4th outing, I confronted him, couldn't take it anymore, couldn't keep pretending I was fine with him spending all his free time with another woman. Couldn't keep acting like this was normal or healthy or acceptable behavior in a relationship. You're spending more time with her than with me. You're going out with her constantly. You're making plans with her every day. How is this not an emotional affair? How is this not you checking out of our relationship? I'm spending time with someone who doesn't make me feel bad about myself. I'm going out with someone who doesn't joke about my anxiety. I'm making plans with someone who actually wants to spend time with me in public. How is that wrong? You spend time with your friends all the time. You go out without me constantly. You make plans that don't include me regularly. But when I do the same thing, suddenly it's a problem. Because you're doing it with one person, a woman, who you're clearly interested in, who you're clearly developing feelings for. Don't act like this is the same as me hanging out with my friend group. This is different. You're right, it is different. With your friends, you make jokes about me. You tell them I'm too awkward to bring. You reinforce all the negative narratives about my social anxiety. With Maya, she makes me feel capable. She treats me like I'm a normal person who can do normal things. She doesn't act like taking me to a restaurant is some huge risk. She doesn't low-key mock my personality to her friends. She just treats me like I'm enough as I am. So, yes, it's different. It's better. The comparison stung. The implication that Maya was better for him than I was. The suggestion that their dynamic was healthier than ours. The realization that maybe he was right. Maybe I had been making him feel bad about himself. Maybe my jokes hadn't been as harmless as I thought. Maybe I'd been slowly eroding his confidence while thinking I was just being realistic about his personality. Are you developing feelings for her? He paused. Really paused. Thought about the question instead of immediately denying it, and that pause told me everything I needed to know. I don't know. Maybe. She's easy to be around. She makes me feel good about myself. She sees potential in me that you seem to have stopped seeing. Is that feelings? Or is that just appreciating being treated well? I honestly don't know. The honesty was devastating. Worse than if he'd lied. Worse than if he'd denied it. Because he was admitting that, yes, something was developing. Yes, Maya was becoming more than just a friend. Yes, he was starting to question our relationship because someone else was showing him what it felt like to be appreciated instead of mocked. So, what do you want? Do you want to be with her? Do you want to break up? I want you to see me differently. I want you to stop deciding what I can't handle. I want you to stop making jokes about my anxiety. I want you to start inviting me places instead of assuming I'll say no. I want you to treat me the way Maya treats me, like I'm capable and interesting and worth spending time with in public. Can you do that? It was an ultimatum, a clear one. Change how I see him and treat him, or lose him to someone who already sees him the way he wants to be seen. Ta isao, and I kan line sard still, and an. I tried, really tried, made an effort to change, to stop making jokes about his anxiety, to start inviting him to things, to treat him like he was capable of handling social situations instead of assuming he couldn't. The next weekend, I invited him to a friend's birthday party. A social event I would have normally gone to alone, assuming he'd be uncomfortable. But this time I asked, "Do you want to come with me to Sarah's birthday party? It's at a restaurant, then maybe a bar after." He looked surprised, actually surprised that I was asking, that I was including him, that I was giving him the choice instead of deciding for him. "You want me to come? You think I can handle it?" The fact that he had to ask, that he had to confirm I actually wanted him there, that I actually thought he could handle it, showed how much damage my jokes had done, how much I'd made him doubt himself, how much I'd convinced him he wasn't capable of normal social activities. "Yes, I want you there. I think you'll have fun. And even if you don't, even if you want to leave early, that's fine. But I want to give you the choice instead of deciding for you." "Okay, I'll come." The party was fine. He was quiet at first, reserved, staying close to me. But as the evening went on, he relaxed, started talking to people, made some jokes that landed, seemed to actually enjoy himself. And I realized that yes, he was more introverted than most of the people there. Yes, he was quieter, but he wasn't awkward. He wasn't uncomfortable. He was just himself. And himself was actually fine, was actually capable, was actually someone I could take places without worrying. We left early, his choice, because he was tired, not because he was uncomfortable. And on the drive home, he said something that gave me hope. "Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for letting me decide if I wanted to go instead of deciding for me." That felt good. "I'm sorry I haven't been doing that. I'm sorry I've been making assumptions about what you can handle. I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't do normal things. I appreciate that, but actions matter more than apologies. Keep inviting me. Keep including me. Keep treating me like I'm capable. That's what I need." It felt like progress, like maybe we could fix this, like maybe I could change how I saw him and how I treated him, and we could get back to something good. But then Maya's last day in town came, and he told me he was going to say goodbye to her. One more outing, one more dinner, one last time with the person who'd shown him he could have a social life, who'd made him question everything about our relationship, who'd become more than just a friend in the span of 2 weeks. "I'll be back around 10, he said. "Okay," I said, because what else could I say? I'd been trying, I'd been changing, I'd been making an effort. But was it enough? Was it too late? Had Maya already taken the space in his life that I'd vacated with my constant jokes and low expectations? He came back at midnight, 2 hours later than promised, looking conflicted, looking torn, looking like someone who'd just had a conversation that changed something fundamental. "We need to talk," he said, and my heart sank. "En fait, t'as pas de crusoe, elle a fait en day affair." Maya asked me to visit her in Seattle, he said carefully, watching my reaction. "She has an extra room in her apartment. She said I could stay for a week, explore the city with her, hang out, go to places she thinks I'd like, get to know each other better outside of the vacation context, actually see if what we have is real or just 2-week novelty. So she's asking you to go on a week-long trip with her, to stay at her apartment, to spend all your time with her, while you have a girlfriend, while you're supposedly in a committed relationship with me. She's asking me to visit as a friend, but yes, I know how it sounds. I know what it implies. I know it's not a normal friend thing to do, and I need to tell you honestly, I'm considering it. I'm actually seriously thinking about going. I'm genuinely weighing this decision." The words hung in the air, heavy, devastating, clear indication that whatever we'd had was crumbling, that my efforts to change had been too little too late, that 2 weeks with Maya had undone 2 years with me, that she'd shown him something in 14 days that I hadn't shown him in 24 months, that I'd joked and mocked and minimized my way out of a relationship without even realizing it was happening. "If you go, we're done. You know that, right? You understand that you can't go on a week-long trip with another woman and come back to me. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. That's cheating, even if you don't sleep with her. That's choosing someone else. That's ending us. I know. That's exactly why I'm telling you instead of just going. That's why I'm being honest and transparent instead of hiding it. Because I need to make a decision. A real decision. And I need you to understand why this is even a question. Why I'm even considering this. Why I'm even torn. Why it's a question? Because some online friend spent 2 weeks making you feel special. Because she paid attention to you and treated you nicely for a few outings. Because she took you to dinner and made you feel less awkward than you feel with me. That's why you're considering throwing away our entire relationship. 2 years together, and you're ready to throw it away for someone you've known for 14 days. Because she made me realize how you've been treating me for those 2 years. She made me see that my social anxiety doesn't have to be the defining feature of my entire personality. She made me understand that I can have a social life, that I can go to restaurants and galleries and concerts and actually enjoy them, that I'm not too awkward to go out with. I've just been with someone who decided I was, and then made sure I believed it too. Someone who reinforced that narrative so many times that I started living down to it. Someone who made jokes about my discomfort until I became uncomfortable. And now I have to choose. Do I stay with someone who's just now starting to change how she sees me after being threatened with losing me? Or do I explore something with someone who's seen me differently from the very beginning? Someone who saw potential instead of limitation. Someone who saw capability instead of anxiety. You're really doing this? You're really going to leave me for someone you've known for 2 weeks? I'm considering whether staying is the right choice. Whether your changes are genuine or just motivated by fear of losing me. Whether you'll actually keep seeing me as capable, or if you'll slip back into making jokes about my anxiety once the threat is gone. Whether I want to keep being with someone who had to be shown by someone else how to treat me well. Every word was calm. Every sentence was measured. Every observation was delivered with that same thoughtful tone. And I realized he'd already made his decision. He'd already chosen. He was just trying to let me down gently. Just trying to make it my fault so he didn't have to be the bad guy. Just trying to justify leaving by pointing to my behavior instead of admitting he'd found someone better. So, you've already decided? I think so. Yes, I think I need to explore this. I think I need to see what it's like to be with someone who appreciates me from the start, instead of someone who had to learn to appreciate me through the threat of losing me. I think I owe it to myself to find out if the version of me that exists with Maya is who I actually am, or if it was just novelty and vacation energy. And us? Our 2 years together? That just doesn't matter. It matters. It shaped me. It taught me things. But it also hurt me. It made me small. It made me doubt myself. It made me think I was too awkward to do normal things. And I need to find out who I am without those beliefs. I need to be with someone who builds me up instead of someone who tears me down while calling it jokes. He left that night, packed a bag, said he'd come back for the rest of his things once he figured out what he was doing. Said he needed space to think. Said he'd be staying with a friend while he decided. Said he'd let me know what he decided about Seattle. But I already knew. He was going. He'd already chosen Maya, chosen the person who made him feel capable over the person who'd made him feel awkward, chosen the fresh start over the history, chosen being appreciated over being mocked. I joked that my boyfriend was too awkward to go out with, and he proved me wrong by going out with someone else. Someone who didn't think he was awkward, someone who saw potential instead of anxiety, someone who treated him like he was enough. And now he's going to Seattle, and I'm here alone. Learning the lesson that jokes have consequences, that words matter, that making fun of someone's struggles isn't harmless even when you call it playful. That deciding someone can't do something often becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. That taking someone for granted means someone else might show them their worth. I joked that he was too awkward to go out with. He went on a date with his online friend and realized he wasn't awkward. He was just with the wrong person.